Hello and welcome. Today we're gonna be playing with some Royal Giant in the Ultimate Champion. Yesterday I've recorded a video about this topic, but it was a slight different variation. Most notably it was the Wizard variant, which is more meta, but I assume some of you will be watching me with the Hunter variant, which I'm gonna be showcasing today. We're gonna be playing against Drill with the Magic Archer. I hope I get the King Tower activation. Okay, I won't get the King Tower activation here, but it's usually a good enough placement to achieve that. I'm gonna be playing against a Drill in first game, and usually against Drill players we'll be having a slight advantage. I'm gonna be playing Skeletons to surround the Royal Ghost. That's usually a very useful placement to counter this card. And I'm gonna be playing the Monk in front of the RG. I'm gonna miss the log, which is very unfortunate, but I don't think it is gonna make too much of a difference. I mean, actually it will make a lot of difference. But yeah, I think the game is still playable at this point. I'm gonna play Skeletons just to make sure that we take no damage from these wall breakers. We're gonna eat the Golden Knight, which kinda makes for a very unfortunate start. My opponent definitely got away with a very early Magic Archer and then got a lot of damage on the opposite side with the Golden Knight as well. Right now he kinda min-maxes the Hunter on the opposite side, which, if I recall correctly, is the correct play in this matchup. You cannot defend everything and you have to be able to decide to let some things go. My opponent may be playing Marcher against that and I'm gonna deflect that. I hope I get the deflection on all arrows because sometimes Monk doesn't manage to. But we got it done and that's gonna be a very nice score. We're gonna go for the full on RG assault. My opponent plays the Evo Wall Breakers as a defensive resource, of which I'm definitely not scared, but he gets away with a pretty nice chunk of damage. Right now my opponent probably will click the dash and he still gets a dash in, which is super infuriating for me. I'm gonna start the push with the Monk from the very back. I'm gonna play the Fisherman as well, just to save the ability, potentially for the offense. I'm gonna play Hunter to counter that, and I'm gonna get the King Tower activation. Actually, it wasn't my goal for this Fishboy, but it turned out pretty well, so I'm not gonna complain about that. It kinda sucks that Ghost doesn't die here, but the Hunter gets a lot of damage on the opposite side, so I'm not gonna complain about that. I'm gonna try to get the log down to kinda counter these wallies. Two goblins will actually connect, which is super unfortunate, and yeah. Unfortunately, we're gonna start off with a loss. My opponent definitely played this matchup way better than I do when I did, and yeah. Like I said, we're gonna start off with a loss. Unfortunate. Usually the plan for this kind of matchup is to focus most on defense in single elixir and set up the Monk plus RG pushes in the double elixir when you had the advantage. But I kinda took an unfortunate amount of damage which my opponent was able to exploit in double. So yeah, that was a pretty unfortunate game if I were to say. My opponent will play a Zap, which is honestly a cool move. We're not gonna respond because most of the time as an RG you want to stay passive in single elixir. My opponent probably will play... Okay, my opponent will not play a miner. I kinda expected him to be running the Zap bait. But apparently he's playing Dark Prince, which means that he's gonna be playing a different deck. I'm gonna actually let the Spear Goblins go. I'm gonna kinda wait for my opponent to do some more moves. My opponent will play Guard, so I'm gonna just use this opportunity and cycle Hunter. And now we're kinda waiting for a bigger moves from my opponent. And there we go. My opponent plays the Goblin Giant in the back. So it's absolutely obvious that the best move will be to strike with the RG on the opposite side. And now my opponent reveals his whole deck, which will be the Goblin Giant Double Prince. I'm gonna be playing Electro Spirit to kinda stop the prince in its tracks. I'm gonna play the Skeleton as well to kinda distract it. And the Skeleton will actually fulfill a great job, kinda kiting the prince right, left, and center. And right now we're kinda in a resetting position. I have some time to think. I think I'm gonna just cycle the Hunter and stop the Dark Prince's charge. with the log. Okay, I didn't stop the charge, but my point still stands. We kinda minimize the damage that we would have taken. And right now my opponent kinda goes all in, which is super dangerous. I'm gonna actually fireball in this position because Evo Bats are not the force that I want to be dealing with. We're gonna take some damage from Evo Goblin Giant, but in return we get the King Tower activation, which is always good to get. I'm gonna just wait for my opponent to kinda play something behind that. My opponent is not committing any elixir, which is super good for us. I'm gonna play Fishboy to catch the Dark Prince as well. I'm gonna play the Monk just to kinda start stacking a very big push. And I'm gonna play Skeletons to stop my opponent's Prince before he inflicts a major damage to my important support troops. Kinda unfortunate that my Hunter died right here, but I think it's still gonna be pretty nice to go in for a push. My RG should get one shot, should get two shots. Okay, it won't get a third shot, which kinda sucks. But I think we're not in the worst position of all. I'm gonna play E-Spirit to kinda stall the Prince in one place. We're gonna play the Lock to clean up the guards, and at this point we're in a pretty bad cycle in which we kinda have to defend. I'm gonna play the Hunter. Right now my opponent probably will play something aggressive. I'm gonna play the Log as such. My opponent gets very aggressive with spells, kinda knowing that if he doesn't do anything now, it's gonna be looking very grim for him later on. Now he plays Evo Bats to kinda clean up my Monk, which is definitely a smart choice. But I'm gonna just play the Hunter to clean them up. I don't think there's anything else that's gonna be necessary. I'm gonna play E-Spirit to kinda stop everything in its tracks. My opponent gets a beautiful fireball, against which I have to be very cautious. I'm gonna surround the Dark Prince with the skeletons, and we still maintain the status quo. I think at some point we'll have to start using spells on my opponent, because at this point what he's doing is starting to get very annoying. Right now we're gonna just play skeletons to kite the Dark Prince. We're gonna play E-Spirit to kite as well, and I'm gonna play Evo Hunter to absolutely vaporize the Evo Goblin Giant as such. And at this point I think I'm gonna just play RG because my opponent wasted most of his momentum and my own Hunter gets the connection, which means we can just end the game in the following fashion. So here we go with a pretty nice first win. Like I've said, previous matchup was definitely winnable. This one was, like I've said, more of a control. My opponent definitely had to press me right, left and center and not allow me to build a very big push. And he was very successful at that. I mean, he wasn't actually very successful because I just was capitalizing so much by staying on defense and then I just counter pushed. From two opponents that we've played today, more successful was the first one, where he was pressing with the Goblin Drills, with Golden Knights, and was actually able to come out on top after pressing me like set. I'm gonna play E-Spirit to kinda get this cannon card. I could have played the Monk ability, but I don't feel like playing the ability early on. I think it's more important to kinda use my cards to kinda cycle through them and get to my evos quickly. At least that's gonna be the plan for the early stages of the game. I'm gonna play the Fisherman once again, and I'm gonna play the Monk, and right now I think... Okay, I'm not gonna... Okay, now I'm popping the ability because my opponent definitely used a spell, which is super useful for me because it means I just get the better trades. My opponent definitely scared that I was going here for the Roll Giant, but like I've said, my goal in this single elixir is mainly to cycle to my evolutions. I already cycled to one Evo Hunter. I probably should have cycled RG at some point, maybe even in the previous offense, but wasn't my priority, so I think I still get one more shot at that. I'm gonna play Skeletons, and I think I kinda have to win this bridge battle, so I'm gonna press the Monk ability to deflect the cannon card, and after that I think I'm gonna just go in, because there's not much stopping me from doing that. My opponent plays a very aggressive fireball to kinda neutralize my troops, which was definitely the play, and now he plays the Hunter as well to kinda cycle and defend the RG. I'm gonna play the E-Spirit to neutralize his Hunter, and at this point I'm gonna just play Fisherman in the back. My opponent plays the Expo, which is super weird card. I wouldn't ever expect it in this matchup. I'm gonna play RG at the bridge, since it's gonna be going with the Monk. Very useful. I'm gonna play the Monk's ability already. Kinda no point in hoarding this. I'm gonna play E-Spirit and Skeletons to kinda get this cannon card kill as soon as possible. And now I'm gonna play the Monk ability to deflect the X-Bow. Should be good enough. I think I'm gonna play the Hunter on top of that, just to cycle to the evolution. Normally I would have played something like Log and E-Spirit, but right here, like I've said, it's probably more important to cycle the evolutions. My opponent definitely with a mistake here, kinda playing the E-Spirit trying to deflect, kill my skeletons once they pop once they surround the can card. Oh, he actually gets an X-Bow lock, interesting. Okay, I have to be careful about those because the game is not solved at all. I still have to pretty much fight for the score. Now I'm gonna play Monk, and probably he's gonna play X-Bow with this can card if I had to guess. Okay, he's not playing X-Bow with the can card. I'm gonna play very aggressive defense here. I'm gonna pop the ability from the Monk. I'm gonna net my opponent's Hunter, and I'm gonna also get a very nice kill, which is definitely something good. I'm gonna play the E-Spirit right here, and right now I'm gonna just cycle the RG in the back, but forcing him kinda into going the X-Bow, and there we go. We're gonna go for the X-Bow, and I'm gonna deflect everything in my tracks. I'm gonna play the Hunter as well. My opponent gets very aggressive with the spell usage. Okay, I didn't want this Fishboy to go here. Kinda a mistake. I have to play the Skeletons to distract the X-Bow. Gonna play E-Spirit to tank. My opponent already starts the Fireball cycle, which is super annoying. And right now we have to be super careful. My opponent has a lot of cannon cards on the board, so I have to play my RG at the bridge to kind of force out his Hunter, and we're gonna win by 9 HP. Yeah, 9 HP. That was super close game, and I actually shouldn't have made it that close. I actually didn't play the X-Bow with this kind of variation ever. So very creative deck from my opponent. It definitely made me sweat for this game, because like I said, I have never seen the X-Bow with this card combination, but it was super fun to see. I think this deck may be actually designed to kind of counter the heavier decks, while still trying to maintain the cycle of the X-Bow. Like you see, you don't have the Evo Tesla, but you compensate for that by having Evo Valk, and for bigger things you have the Evo Hunter. So definitely an interesting deck. But we're gonna take the win, and we're gonna try to win next 2 games as well. Like I've said, normal objective for these kind of videos is to get the daily lucky drops, and we're gonna stop at that. So let's go to the game 4 of today's video. We're gonna cycle Log, and my opponent will cycle Rage, which is definitely a play. Usually it signifies that my opponent will be playing Beatdown. Also, when you're trying to cycle cards, I would say that cycling RG, cycling Monk, and cycling Hunter will be the most dangerous in your deck. Sometimes you can cycle Fishboy if you made sure that you won't be needing it in this matchup. Obviously for me, it's still not determined should I save the Fishboy or not. But I cycle it anyway because I feel way more comfortable in cycling back my Fishboy than cycling the Monk. I'm gonna play Fireball on this Electro Dragon, and my opponent is playing Egolem. Okay. I'm gonna get this down. I'm gonna try to get the Egolem blobs on my King Tower, and I do. Monk will promptly tank for the Electro Dragon and Battle Healer, which is gonna be super nice. Unfortunately, my tower's targeting is kinda scuffed, so I'll have to spend more on this defense. And Fishboy actually stays on my field, which is super cool to see. And against Egolem, I feel like the best way of playing is to play very patiently in single elixir, because if you overcommit once and you don't have the right hand to kinda deal with that, it's gonna be pretty much game over. So I'm gonna stay patient and try to not overcommit. If my opponent goes for some kind of elixir golem in the back, I think I'm gonna just respawn in kind. But he plays Inferno Dragon, to which I think I have to react with the Hunter. I'm gonna play RG on the opposite side, kinda expecting E-Barbs or stuff like that. He plays Electro Dragon, kinda expecting more backup, which is fair enough. Maybe most most RG players back up their RGs in a more threatening way. Maybe that's the case. But it's not gonna be the case with my gameplay, so I'm gonna just defend it normally. I'm gonna instantly counterplay with my RG, trying to get some things going. And right now I'm gonna try to just separate his push, play the Fireball here. I'm gonna play the Kite for the Inferno Dragon just like that, kinda separating all of his strong attributes of the deck. And right now I'm gonna just try to cheese in a win, because I think if I just throw everything at his tower, it's gonna be enough. Yes, so we're gonna get a very nice win against Egolem. I feel like we had a counter because my opponent was trying to go for a full cheese with double healer and kinda immortal dragons, but all it took for us was basically to kinda take care of the Egolem, kite his support troops forever, and don't overcommit on offense. Like I've said, it was best for us to stay patient against this deck and then outtrade him in his own game. Because battle healers are very strong against when they're in front of the tank, but when they are not getting tanked and they cannot heal it forever, they're kinda weak. So that was a pretty, I would say, instructive way of showing how to deal with the big Egolem pushes, especially when they're supported with the double dragon. Kinda older deck, but it is what it is. We're also in the game number 5 of today's video, and I'm gonna right now play against Lumberjack. That's gonna be a fun way of activating King Tower. I usually love to play the skeletons as well, just to take no hits. I believe there's not a placement where you cannot take a single hit. Yes, there is a placement where you take no hit, but you still take the rage damage, which I have been using for for some time, not gonna say quite a time, but it was the period of time where I was kinda using it. I kinda resigned that because usually in this meta you want to cycle your skeletons anyway. I'm gonna play the Monk against the Golem because my opponent is getting very impatient, so I'm gonna just Kai the Berserker, now Kai the Golem, and basically right now we already got a very nice move out. I'm gonna pop the ability preemptively because you never know what my opponent may be popping. He plays the Lumberjack, which is definitely one of the responses to the Royal Giant. I just don't think it's gonna be the best one. I'm gonna play Skeletons in the middle just to allow for the Fishboy to kite it. I'm gonna play the Electro Spirit to kinda kite the minions as well, and it's gonna be a very successful defense. So like you've seen, we are finding ourselves in a very huge damage lead. Obviously my opponent with some attributes of the position definitely is not lacking, because he will be having the Electro Dragon, which I want to force out by playing RG at the bridge. Maybe he's gonna play something else, maybe he's going for the Fishboy, which is super smart play against what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna play a very aggressive setup against his Golem in the back. I'm gonna play Fishboy right here to kinda kite the Golem to the opposite side, and I'm gonna basically try to clean it dull. That's a very good fireball, of which I'm very impressed. I'm gonna play the monk right here, and unfortunately I won't be able to get the golem off the tower, so that's gonna be a lot of damage. Lumberjack will get a hit, yeah, so unfortunately that's gonna be a loss. I thought I controlled it all well, and my opponent has lightning, interesting. So like I said, I thought I controlled it pretty well, but unfortunately the golem wasn't getting kited on the king tower, and I kinda rolled my defense on a very bad tracks. Like you've seen, Fishboy wasn't able to get another tower to help. Monk was overwhelmed by, I believe, two Fish Boys, Lumberjack and Berserker, so a lot of units. And Evo Hunter, despite his best efforts, wasn't getting the value he needed because the troops weren't just dying fast enough. Okay, but last game out of the way, we're gonna play another one. We're gonna cycle a Fish Boy, and my opponent is not playing the Royal Chef, so I expect it's gonna be some kind of a control deck. My opponent is playing Goblin Cage, which I think instantly suggests some kind of lava play. There was a deck that is very popular with guards and lightning, but it's gonna be MK. Okay, so Mega Knight it is. I'm gonna play the Hunter right here, just to kinda stop the Goblin Brawler in his tracks. I'm gonna get the Monk and the Hunter against that. I really hope that Monk will go in front, and he does. Hunter probably will die anyway, which is super unfortunate. I just hope that my Monk gets the good trade against the MK, and I think he does. So we're gonna go for the small RG. If my opponent plays the Goblin Cage, so be it. Okay, he plays the Goblin Cage way too late, so I'm gonna just log it and get my RG on the tower. That's a definitive mistake that you have to take advantage of if your opponent kinda messes this up, because the Goblin Cage, frankly, is one of the best responses to the evolved Royal Giant. So definitely, like I said, you have to take advantage of that. Second Evo of his deck probably will be the Evo Mega Knight, so right now we have to be playing very patiently. If he starts stacking troops on the opposite side, we have to hit him. I mean, if he plays the troop in one side, we have to play on the opposite side with the Royal Giant, because obviously we want to force out the Evo MK on the lane where he doesn't want to push on. So I'm gonna play the Monk right now, kinda setting up for something bigger. I'm gonna play the Monk ability and deflect some Spirit Empress hits. I believe I kinda made a slight error. I wish my Hunter survives, but it doesn't. Okay, that's gonna be a very difficult hold. We have to play a Fireball as well, if I recall correctly. And we're gonna be able to kinda hold. Obviously that's not the perfect hold, but at least it's something. We're gonna play the Fish Boy behind the push, just to make sure that we get some kind of moving power. I'm gonna play right now the E-Spirit for that. I hope this E-Spirit connects. Okay, eventually it connects, but it was definitely too late. My opponent right now in a very commanding position, I would say. Definitely not the best place I could have found myself into. Right now I'm gonna just play the RG on the opposite side, like I've said. My goal will be to kinda get his Evo MK out of cycle. Right now my opponent tries to cheese me, which I'm gonna allow. I'm gonna play Monk right here, just to divert the attention of the Goblin Brawler. And right now I think I'm gonna go for another RG, because I'm back to the Evo Hunter. Okay, my Monk probably will... Okay, my Monk will not pop the ability, which super sucks. Also, Evo Hunter will not trap the Evo MK, which also sucks. Yeah, it's gonna be a very hard sequence. I went for the RG on the opposite side to distract him from building behind his push, and that was a correct call. I'm gonna play the Skeletons. just to tank. For my troops, I'm gonna go for the monk and I'm gonna try to predict the barbarel. If I got it, I would have pretty much won the game instantly, but I win the game anyway because RG gets so much damage on the opposite side. And that's gonna be it for the game number 6, I believe, of today's video. Yeah, that was definitely longer than yesterday, but I'm still very proud of the matchups. I would say we didn't get any like super bad matchups that we couldn't have won. Definitely all of them were playable. I think the hardest matchup was unironically the Golem one, because of him having lightning. If he didn't have lightning, I think we hard counter pretty much all the decks. First one was a flop, but then we won our matchup, then we won our matchup, then we won against Egolem, which is pretty obvious. I would say also last matchup was pretty difficult, but my opponent couldn't break my Evo Hunter, so like technically speaking, he had the immortal card on his side, but we also had one of our own, so it was pretty even in this regard at least. So yeah, that's gonna be another video of the RG. I hope you guys enjoyed. This variation had the Hunter instead of the Wizard. Even though it's less meta, I would say in most metas, Hunter will be better because of his synergy with the Fishboy. Wizard is the modern pick, mostly to counter meta, to counter Furnace, to counter Spirit Empress, to counter minions, and now to counter beatdown decks. So once beatdown meta is over, I think Hunter will come back as the leading evolution for the RG. Or maybe I'm wrong and you can tell me in the comments if you think otherwise. Either way, thank you for watching, and I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow. Peace.